Yo, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. A lot going on with the Bengals and with the rest of the NFL this week, so let's talk about it. First off, I gotta start with last Sunday. Bengals beat the Broncos 15-10 in what was very much a sleepy game, but just one of those games that you gotta grind out towards the end of the season, and the Bengals very much did that. 15-10 win where the defense played really well and went on to clinch it at the end. Real quick before I get into the rest of this game though, I do want to say thoughts and prayers with Teddy Bridgewater. Fortunately, it looks like he's going to be okay, but that was definitely a scary situation seeing him go down, have to be stretchered off in that game. So prayers up to him. Hopefully he can make a full recovery and we'll be all right. But with that being said, let's get into the game a little bit. It was a very, just subjectively, just not a fun game to watch really from either side. Ended 15-10. It was 6-3 at halftime. Shout out to Evan McPherson though, Money Mac, drilling a 58-yard field goal at the end of the first half, breaking the Bengals franchise record for the longest field goal. So that was cool to see. He played well, knocked in 3 field goals. But the offense, very slow start for the Bengals in the first half. Wasn't really able to put up much. In the second half, it got going a little bit. We saw the big play from Burrow to Boyd to get the touchdown. Tyler Boyd had a really good game. It's been great to see him come on at this point in the season. I mean, going into this season, I've always said that I thought he was the best wide receiver on the Bengals roster, at least coming into the season. Obviously, we've seen the emergence of Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins had a great year. So early on, Boyd wasn't really getting as many targets, but now he's just kind of been like all reliable. He's been there the longest out of those groups. He's got great hands. I think he's one of the best and definitely the most underrated slot receivers in the NFL. So it's good to see a good game out of him. Not a huge game from Burrow, but he did what he needed to do. Ended with, I think, 157 yards and a touchdown. Funny enough, the Bengals are actually 4-0 this season when Burrow throws for under 200 yards, which is a funny stat. But it shows that it's almost like the Bengals play better in these kind of grinded out games. Like this game kind of reminded me of the Ravens game. Not the Ravens game, the Raiders game. That game, just other games where they just had to grind out. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. Joe Mixon did pick up a little bit of an injury towards the end of the game. However, he did practice. I'm recording this Wednesday night, so he did practice on Wednesday, so it looks like he's going to be good to go, which is huge for the Bengals on Sunday against the Ravens, which is a huge game, which I'll get to in a little bit. It'd be great to have him. Couldn't really get going like I'm sure they wanted him to be. I think 17 carries or 58 yards, not his best game, but good enough to get the win. Defense is great. Trey Hendrickson, just talk about him for a little bit. What is one of the best signings that the Bengals have made in a while? A lot of people said losing Carl Lawson, adding him, it wasn't a good move from the Bengals, but a sack in 10 straight games, the longest active streak in the NFL. He's been on an absolute tear this season and is a well-deserved Pro Bowler this year, and it's just been a great pickup for the Bengals. I mean, the biggest thing, the Bengals had 17 sacks all of last season, which was last in the NFL, and now they're in the top 5 in the league in sacks, largely from him. He leads the team in sacks. Sam Hubbard's been great. Larry Ogunjobi, BJ Hill, DJ Reader, all have just been great on this Bengals defensive line, which is really anchored that defense. And on the back end, I do have to give a shout out to Eli Apple as well. After getting a lot of heat and a lot of criticism early in the season, some of it warranted and deserved, Eli Apple has really stepped it up in the last few weeks. It's really solidified himself into that corner role, especially this game when Chidobe Awuzie was out. I think him and Awuzie, when Awuzie is healthy, I think those are the Bengals' 2 best options at corners. Trey Waynes finally was able to play this week, and I think he's a good player, but just in a situation like his where he just hasn't played so long and hasn't really played much, it's going to be tough for him to get back in the swing of things. So Eli Apple, bottom line, has been really good. It's great. They're peaking at the right time. This defense in general is peaking at the right time. So it's been really cool to see what they've been able to do. They're able to grind out this game, which is good. Puts the Bengals at 8-6, and at the moment puts them at first place in the AFC North, going into an absolutely huge matchup with the Baltimore Ravens this Sunday. Honestly, I have to say this is one of the biggest and most hyped up regular season games I can remember for a while with the Bengals. At Paul Brown Stadium, should be a great atmosphere. I'm going to be there, so I cannot wait for that game. in terms of prediction, I'm not going to give a prediction here. I'm not great with predictions, and they usually end up going pretty bad. But I think it also, first of all, depends on Lamar Jackson's health. Obviously, he did not play last weekend, even though they would just say Tyler Huntley played a very good game. I think he's very capable. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the Ravens would rather have Lamar. I mean, who wouldn't? But Tyler Huntley showed that he's capable of leading this team and almost led them to a big win over the Packers last weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what their quarterback situation is going into this week. I know Lamar has not practiced yet this week, so it's still kind of up in the air. It kind of looks like he won't play, but it's hard to say. We'll find out on Sunday. It's looking like John Harbaugh is trying to keep that under wraps a little bit, which makes sense. Makes it a little bit tougher for the Bengals to game plan if they don't know who the starting quarterback is, and old trick a lot of head coaches do when it comes to injuries and players and that sort of thing. But talking about this matchup and what it means for the AFC North, I mean, the AFC North has got to be the craziest division in football, with the Bengals, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers all being within like a game or two of each other. I mean, it's absolutely wild. If the Browns had won against the Raiders, they would be the top of the North, but now they're all the way last in the North. I mean, that is just how crazy it's been. The Browns obviously have been hit hard by COVID over the last couple of weeks. They've got a big game this week as well. The Steelers play the Chiefs this week, who've also been hit hard by COVID. So it's just it's going to be a wild finish to this season in the AFC North. So we're just going to have to see what's going to happen. It's going to be a lot of entertaining games going down the stretch for the Bengals. I would say the Ravens this week, but then it's the Bengals. It's tough the rest of the way. I think they're in a good spot right now, but they got the Ravens this weekend at home, the Chiefs next weekend also at home, and then they finish the game at the Browns in Cleveland. So it's going to be a tough stretch for them. They're 8-6. If they win 2 of those 3 games, they're in the playoffs. I can confidently say that. If they go 10-7, they will be in there. 9-8. I think they have a good shot, but 10-7 for sure. That's what they're aiming for. I think if they win these next 2 games and I'm not 100% sure if the tiebreakers know what need to happen, but if they win these next 2 games and get a little bit of help, that will put them in. But this game is going to be absolutely huge for the Bengals and their playoff chances. Talking about Bengals and Bengals players in this week's news, the Pro Bowl players in the Pro Bowl rosters were announced today, and Trey Hendrickson, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon will all be in the Pro Bowl, with Jamar Chase being a Pro Bowl starter. Obviously, we've seen what Jamar Chase has done this season. Been absolutely amazing rookie season for him. It's slowed up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. Production hasn't been what it was early in the season. He may not be in as good of a spot anymore for Rookie of the Year, but you can't deny the impact that he has had on this offense this season and just how good of a season he's had. Talked about Trey Hendrickson earlier. I mean, an absolute beast in the defensive line has really brought this unit back to life for the Bengals. And then Joe Mixon, I talked about it last week. He is like the X factor in this offense. When he rushes for over 100 yards, when the Bengals can be balanced and he really gets going, the Bengals offense is almost unstoppable. So 3 guys who I believe well deserving of Pro Bowl honors. And then we can talk about who didn't make it, and that's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow and DJ Reader, you can both argue, got snubbed. With Joe Burrow, I mean, the Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. I think we all know that by now. But very interesting to see Lamar Jackson get taken over him. Looking at the year both of them have had, Joe Burrow just objectively has had a better season. He's got more touchdowns. He's got more yards. He's already smacked him once head to head. And we'll see what's going to happen this weekend. But like I said, it's a popularity contest, so you don't really want to put too much stock into that. But it's going to be interesting to see how Joe Burrow responds if he uses that for some extra motivation playing against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens this weekend. If he'll have a Michael Jordan took that personally type of moment. But it's going to be an absolutely huge game for the Bengals this Sunday. I can't wait. It's going to be an insane environment at Paul Brown Stadium. It's supposed to be good weather too, into the 50s, which is almost unheard of for an AFC North matchup in December. Keys to the game for Cincinnati, looking at their last game against the Ravens, and just every week for them on offense, it's going to come down to being balanced. If they can get Joe Mixon going and let that set up the passing game, that's going to be huge for them on offense. The Ravens are going to be without Marlon Humphrey this time, so that kind of changes up how they play, the injuries they've had. Usually the Ravens are a team that like to blitz a lot, play a lot of man coverage, but it would be interesting to see how they adjust, one, with Humphrey out, and two, just the way that the Bengals were able to torch them in man coverage in the game that Jamar Chase had last time they played. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of looks that the Ravens give them on defense. But it's going to be extremely important for the Bengals to be balanced, to get the run game going, so they're just not being one-dimensional. And then on defense, just do the same things they did last time. Get pressure on Lamar Jackson. Keep him in the pocket. Don't let him kill you with his legs like he does with a lot of teams. And I think the Bengals can have a similar game that they did last time they played. I think the Bengals are more than capable of winning this game. And I think they're more than capable, too, of getting up for a big game like this. So it's going to be a fun one. But with that being said, thank y'all so much for watching. Get to y'all next week talking about this game with the rest of the playoff picture and what the rest of the North is going to look like. With that being said, Godspeed.